Good morning. Or whatever it is, wherever you are. We've got this. Well, it's not working right now because we're in this kind of weird startup situation. And it's set to search that. And, well, actually, this works. The really annoying thing is this works differently in. We're experimenting with this as a filter. Differently on reload versus initial load, but I think it's only relevant when I'm doing these kind of development setups here. So what I want to do is for a more normal startup situation, which we might want to be undoing some of this stuff. That's really going to be. I don't want to load by default, but I'll have to get there when I get there. I want to be, well, I want to be looking for. That's probably all of them. We've got the bell towers, but they only get made every once in a while. So I'm wondering if there is other things we could be using to pick a default map location. And as part of that, I'm thinking there might be some interesting things to be kind of showing by default. We could do towers that are in progress. We could try to do advanced level wells. Maybe iron mines being worked. And if we got that at the right granularity, we would probably have a data set that was small enough to be loadable. I've got those as all individual objects, but I don't want to load that many files every time we start the map, even if you might not care about it. Well, one of the things I know probably going to want to do, and I think it's actually going to require a slightly different data granularity, but that's something I have to figure out later. Is apocalypses. And maybe all monument call things. Bell towers that get made are probably going to be monument call. Oh, so actually the one thing that's on this map is actually an L1, which is not actually a monument call. Monument call is still a place to start. And actually it's model. Initial object search. It's not exactly that. So I think we're going to need a much more complicated loading system here. For this like front end only test version, what we're actually going to need for load one file. What do we call this? Right now we're looking at monument call. I think it's eventually going to be more than that. Let's see. Oh, technically it's seeping even that does the call. The only thing we're going to see on the map is when you place the stone on it. And you're seeping. No. Double your comments, double your fun. How to get, how to use. All right, that's the thing you can place at level 2. Then we wait, and then we put a block on it. Yep. Okay, so that was already 3. No. Oh, because I didn't change this. Then we wait, and we put a block on it, and we get an 83. And then we wait, and then the thing we might see is the very last thing in the map. Is this going to be completely separate? Well, these... I don't think I'm going to have static and dynamic. Well, I guess bell towers ended up being settable by time. I don't think I really want to deal with it. But this is going to change. It is going to depend on this if we're doing this stuff. And it's not, I don't think we're going to have time information. I mean, I guess I could have time appeared. How are we going to want this? I'm going to want the most recent. I'm going to want all of the locations where one of these things happened and the most recent event on that location. So things, even if we had a start time, things could have happened earlier, and then it gets a little weird. Well, I guess there's initially where it goes into the model. What was I doing for... What's a monument? Okay, it has a start time and then maybe an end time. So this is going to, well, I guess this is going to be more of a constant thing. Because it ultimately is just going to be a file. It's going to have what's going to have. So that doesn't necessarily go into a file, or a variable, a model. The actual locations do. Which means you're probably going to get used someplace else. At which point it's probably a kind of span data. Which I don't know if we'll ever need to browse these things, but this kind of code is set up to do that right now. Oh, this isn't really going to be by object ID. You're just going to be flat locations. At which point we're not necessarily going to be comparable to this stuff anymore. You might just be a list. And we'll see how awkward it is to work with different data type. Do we have like an as span data? Yes. And this is going to be a thing that happens on startup. This is going to be a batch of messages to fetch multiple things. It's going to be using existing structure but with a different message. Oh, actually, it's very possible that some of these are not going to be existing items. But this is just a temporary implementation, so I don't... The long-term one will not actually be depending on the search index to see if we're going to fetch this. Require object search. Now you see, you're actually using... Well, you use a fetch somewhere, right? A list URL, a server ID, a data type, and an ID, but you come back with a particular message that then ends up implying. I guess I can still use the parse function. And then we'll just have a different one of these. Oh, this is the log object search. Key object search, fetch parse log object, fetch key object search. So I could parameterize that with a function, or I guess it's really, at this point, see, this will eventually take like its own path and things. Oh, this parse currently throws out the item ID. No, this returns that. Key to browse location. Yeah, browse location is not actually what we want here. Actually, it's going to be parse key. Do I even have that in here? Nope. Did you define browse location? You did. I could define a compatible type, but then it's just going to be a really trivial map. You could define your key to be parse.key. Type alias. I still have to import that to have it, but parse.key. And then did you? Yes. Can we re-expose it though? Cannot be used the type alias like key. The problem is it's a type alias. Can we write blah from a key? And this is already talking about parse.keys. To whatever. Right, this would be, it's not a parse key anymore. Does not expose a key variant. Oh no, it's model. Which model should have been just exposed. Model exposing all. Exposing key. Is that the right syntax? That's the same as these, so no, cannot do that. That would actually be useful. So you have to have parse.key. You've already got parse.key. Model. Now I guess I could do the same thing as these and actually have my custom type that's exactly the same. Just with a different tag on it. But that was dealing with parsers anyway. All right, in order to load that, fetch key object search. So then, actually, parse key object search doesn't work either, because that's doing key to browse location, which, yeah, it has to run the parser. That was mapping that throughout the ID. This is going to be completely different. That's object search URL, which was a thing used by all of this stuff. All right, so the list URL is going to be fine. This is good. Server ID, data time ID. So this is, at the moment, this is still something we're going to call in a loop. So I guess this is going to be like fetch notable object, really. Although, yeah, eventually the top level thing will be getting multiple things. So it's going to be an awkward intermediary. Where this right now is going to fetch a singular and parse a singular. And then the top level thing, I guess it's going to get that URL. Server ID data time is going to be variable. And then that's not going to be variable. And then you're going to do this is just the command. You also have to deal with setting the thing to loading. List.map fetch notable object. All right, parse key object search, parse notable object. And this is going to be another thing that's going to be super awkward because we're going to get individual responses for the time being. And eventually we'll be getting the entire response. I didn't actually type that out, did I? Object. For now, it does have the object ID. going to be the full thing. Now we have to go implement that. And let's see, you held with success, failure, and empty list, which we're just going to get an empty list. Oh, maybe I should have put, maybe I should have put data nothing in here or something. All right, so this we had to deal with, well, we still have to deal with span data. But we set this all up as dict operations, so that won't be helpful. See, so that's inserting the error. This is going to be, and it's still in span data though. So I'm going to need some kind of helper for that. Oh, we did not update these. I didn't update the parse definition. Fetch notable object. Okay, so you have to go into a command.batch. All right, compilable. Not useful, but compilable. This is really going to be a startup thing. And all the commands. Fetch servers, fetch objects, leaflet, 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 leaflet. Highlight objects command? Sidebar command. Right, that's probably using the model data to pick what to do. Fetch servers, fetch objects, fetch notable objects, but you need like all of that stuff. You were based off of like this. Oh, look, it's model log search. So you come in through config. It's going to be like the actual key search. Do we have our server ID yet? And span data.end. Yeah, so we actually got to establish some things first. Fetch object search index. This is when the search index comes in, but we have when we have the URLs, we have the ID, we have the time. You are based on this. So it updates there. If we toggle animated, maximum objects, anim toggle. Too much code. Server list is probably where that first comes in. Oh, server list and span list. We need both things. Scrub time will affect it. Set server update. Oh, that's when it's replace URL from there. Set server. Oh, add the update that does this. So you're just a little bit of a wrapper. So that's from a server change, which is correct. Okay, so we're probably going to want a require object search. Search index, object search. Model selected server and span data. So that is actually model matching object. So it does an early exit on that. This has some very similar conditions, but I think it'll be simpler to keep it separate. Okay, there's going to be no precondition there. We need to get these two pieces of information. We don't care about animated. Wait, no, we still have this. And this is span data. Actually, the index is a little bit like this. It'll just be a data of something. Notable locations. Equals loading. And then we call fetch notable location. Yeah, okay. It's we're fetching the objects. This is the object search. Key search. Server ID span data end. Does that require object search? Probably gonna have about the same change. All right, so we're not gonna do typing. Don't care about animated, don't care about maximum objects, don't care about animated. We do care about receiving the server list. We do care about receiving the span list because that's the other variable here. Scrub time. Yes. because that can change our time span. That can change our server, which will change our span. Oops. Well, copy it now. That's the function itself, and that should be that. All right, we're not doing anything with the data. At this point, we can see that it fetched. Okay, okay, yep, I expect those to 404. Normally, that will just be a possibly empty file, so it will not be a 404. Notable objects received. Particularly when there is data, I should probably actually be doing something on the empty case to say that something exists there. So we did these. You must be a model function. Span data, map span data, browse placements is span data, browse placements. So actually, we're saying that f was a dictionary function. Model span data, maybe map. Right, because the span data we might not be in a span. Therefore, we'll have no data. Maybe a little bit less necessary here. We're not then burrowing down to dict things. It's like this will just end up being an equals like loading or whatever. And this is for in-place replacements. How often do I do this here? I mean, maybe I was also using the dict functions a little bit. As we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to get them out at some time. I don't know if I do a thing to. I probably did a thing to fetch the current one, the focus location. Span data, maybe map span data to that. That's probably the only place we need to update that. Notable locations equals data. Now you see, in this case, we actually have to put it back together, as we kind of had to do before. We don't actually need to do anything with the head. I see, you cared about whether there was data because we're going to jump to one. I might end up using this as a jump to one too. Oh, actually, there is a little bit of a transformation here. Because we're actually going to be, right now, we're going to be receiving these item by item by item by item. So we have to care whether there was any data there before. Yeah, that almost does turn to a map, doesn't it? And we have to merge it in. Nope. Okay, so this is not the dict. This is just the remote data of a list of parse key list to a remote data. So I guess I don't need the outer parentheses. Nope. Nope. Nope, that deleted around the block. I delete surrounding block? Yeah. Store remote data of a list. Notable locations. Notable locations. Then we still have to deal with remote data. Model is a remote data, but I need a record. Oh, this does have an extra parenthesis because it's a function. All right, so model. Map notable. And we are going to say, so we have a remote data. Do we have a remote map? With default, we have a map. If its data do something, we do not have a way that would fill it in if it was not available. So we actually have to deal with two remote datas here. We could deal with the empty list. I don't want to deal with you. Do not want to deal with the special case. So this is previous. We've got received data. Well, actually, maybe if we go one by one. Because most of these are just going to be completely excluding a case. I almost need to map a couple of these to the same things, like not requested, not available, loading. All of that'll just go to, well, if that's the case, then it's just data. That's not too bad. Those are the simple ones. Now here's the awkward thing. When they fail, when you do something similar, we only make it an error if there's no data. And then this is the one that gets complicated. Well, no, actually, do we just set it to... We've already established that it's an okay. But we have to mix it up. This is going to be like list.append. So this might be doable as a map and a default. We did not expose you from model. Let's append previous. Oh, previous is that. We need to get the value out. And then if it's an error, if it's not requested, then it is failed error. Although maybe this is a different kind of error. If it's not available, if it's loading. If it was data, then we leave it as is. And if it's failed error, yeah, pick one. Actually, these should have been showing up. Yeah, those are kind of showing up there too. All right. Oh, yeah, it's 4 of those. And I probably need to take this Flint search off because it's jumping me out to where I don't need to be right now. All right, having received that data, hopefully, we need a way to browse it. Not browse it per se. I don't know if I would browse these. Maybe that would be useful. This is probably going to be like its own little layer. which is going to look a lot like monuments. Leaflet, monument list. Yeah, the monument list is per server. Monuments. Oh, you're just a value. Because we caught it as a JSON value, so we can just send it over as a JSON value. And you see, we got this whole tension between objects and this is going to be changing all the time. I don't know if it's useful to keep around as that. You are going to be a list of... We'll just have it as that type. Don't have you... like locations of the objects. A sub command for that would be nice. I don't really have an encoder for this. What do I do with points? We just did XYZ. In the cases where we needed them. We should be able to do encode.list. So I guess that you would actually be a key placement. And you could be done as a simple array. Since it's basically a positional thing on this side. It'll probably be useful to have it in parts on the other end. That's basically what we're going to... Just JavaScript will be able to take this and use it. Is you an int or integer? You unfortunately have to depend on this. A parse.object. There's an object ID. Oh. I was just throwing that out before. Now, you see, the map would actually be kind of fine. Well, the use invariant, I think it is used to using. I don't know if it pulled out floors as a separate thing. And it really only cares about IDs replacing pictures right now. I can do some stuff with floors. I might have to re-encode that. There's all the other object stuff I'm dealing with on the map. Deals with like the subcodes. So you're not really, this isn't really an ID per se, is it? It's the placement, and this is like a whole... I'm assuming I exposed this, because, yeah, it'd be kind of useless otherwise. I see this is technically a parser. Maybe we should give a little bit of help here. Object. Placement code. Okay, we just have object plane. We have use. I see it's like count. And I don't know if I really had a name for the variant. And floor is just floor. All right, so you're just... string dot from int ID. You are string... I can't really let this because I have to pull the int out in every single case. And variant's going to look a heck of a lot like that. And floors will look like that. Oh, with a floor on it. Oh, I guess it didn't need parentheses. There's like, oh, well, string is going to need it. Ah. AD value is a parse object. Oh, we're still here. So now we have parse.object placement code. Oh, and I kept putting ID here. Oh, right, because we renamed it because it's not just an ID. And we didn't expose it. Code.value and code.string. Right, so this thing got a string, but we're trying to do a value. Code.list. Oh, you need an actual value here. All right, we can send that over. Nothing to receive it yet. Notable object received. This will be no change in the data if indeed that was the case. We need the derivative here. It's going to be a complete set. And since we're using a map function, I have to alias the entire model and then get the value out again, which makes that not nearly so attractive. So it's just going to be like double ugly now. This entire thing is a maybe. If we have span data, then notable locations, we don't need to reference that again anywhere. And then we do the model update if it's there, which means we have to burrow back down again and determine if it's a maybe again. We don't have to maybe map it. We're going to say it's definitely there, so we're just going to assign span data to just. Well, we have to do the span data update. And we have to deal with the nothing case, which is if there is no span data, then I don't even know what happened here. Shouldn't have happened. Maybe we moved off to a different time span in the meantime. What are you complaining about here? Do you not like having this on the same line? Now this is let notable. Oh, you don't like having this in the same line. Oh, this was an update. Now it's not. This feels over-indented now. And we copied this stuff. So notable locations equals notable. So that'll fit nicely into one line now. Maybe that could probably even fit into one line. Want that notable objects. So we can reuse that. You were not exposed. We put this by monuments. Remote data. So at the burrow through the remote data a little bit. No. Right, notables remote data. This is just the. It has to be the inner of this. We want the modified list. See, there will be no state change, or in this case. No, because this is setting it to new data. So because we received data here, it's going to be data no matter what. That's to a maybe. That's to a with default data to da, 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 da. So do we take it down to a list? Remote data, so we can map that. See, if we map it, we append it if it's there. If we, with default, this is for getting things out. So in any case that's not just data, then we're going to give it that data. But now you have to be data notable, and then we can pass that to you. Remote data. And hey, how about a map? Now, Leaflet will complain it doesn't. JavaScript will complain. Whoa. What'd you say, Bob? All right, update monument layer, monuments by time. This is really going to be driven by Elm, so it's not going to be doing a whole lot of by time stuff. We're probably going to have a layer for this. All right, update monument layer. Do we have a reference to this? Point down monument data layer. Data.forEach, point.monument, add to layer, where layer is, update monument layer is monument overlay. I mean, I'm kind of fine with the shorthand there. We're not using that because we don't currently have timestamps attached here. Notable. See, that's an interesting point. Is it notable or notable? That's definitely a thing people do. Yep, notable. Isn't it weird how you look at something 100 times and then something... Is that spelled like that? Really? I don't want to do something... we've got object search. But notable objects would still be a new longest line. That's doing a time update. Now, I may have to add something to clear this under certain circumstances. That's showing the current monuments. Okay, so that's a full cycle there. If, no, because this has a lot of time stuff, so I can't really reuse the monument function. All right, we don't have date, we don't have end. We don't have age. So we don't have opacity. I'm eventually going to want to do something for a name, which maybe we need to wait for objects and do that in Elm. I guess else we can do for now. It's going to be a string. Notable. Now you had a monuments.data. This is just going to be, it was just like locations? Motion and placements? Right, that's not going to cause a compile. Oh, and if we receive that data, stick it on there. Okay, those might be bells that rang. We definitely have one out here. Well, we've got, there's going to be multiple points here. I'm not sure what's going on with that one. We could probably turn off monuments. Yeah, I don't know why that one doesn't have a... Why don't you have a tag? Is it possible we sent over a blank tag? I mean, this is just a regular, really recent... No, it's got an object. We've only got 2 of them, so this is... Oh, no, this is our focus location here. I probably need to do something about the kinds of pointers we use. Like, Leaflet only really ships you the one. Markers and custom icons. Well, I'm not going to have a shadow, sorry. Icon size, shadow size, icon anchor. If I'm doing custom things, I might be able to do anchor. Like for a couple of those things, I might be able to assign custom icons. But if it's general objects, good luck. No, that's just an LDOT marker icon. Yeah, that's just the icon, doesn't have any... Oh, leaf icon, so yeah. All the shadow, all the sizes. So I really would want to pull the object ID back out. Which makes me wonder, do I really want to send the full code over? It would only matter if we got to a point that we could deal with uses and variants, which we can't right now. All right, well, that's something. At this point, I could probably experiment with, well, There were some interesting objects, but I actually think I need to get custom icons to make that worthwhile. But right now I need a break. Let me back a little bit. There and help it cycle so that eventually this can get up to boiling temperature and get us more water. We've already got it pretty well de-germified. Alright, so you are... I never did put one more temp shift here. Hydrogen is up to 200 degrees.
It's because you're trying to call the read passwords on the list and not each individual object in there. So the list doesn't have the read passwords method, it's actually the objects inside the list. So if you say, for example, readers index 0.read passwords, I think that would work. So I think that's your issue there. So just do a for loop in that.
Oh, geez. It's still exploding. I'm sorry, but you're past rest. That means your health is still regenerating. That was a heck of a trap. I did not know that. Like, I have never actually come in here. That was crazy. I just turn around and there's nothing but like grenade markers across my screen. I'm like, oh shoot. That was not good. You blew up like half the parking lot.
We'll never use this unless it's the same priority as the issue. Now this might be designed for automation, in which case I would have to... Oh. That was bizarre. Okay. Welcome back. Alright, that is a useful little step. I'm gonna possibly revise what we're sending, but it's still a useful prototype. So if we want to turn those into graphics, we have a little bit of a timing problem now. Well, let me add the thing of if we turn them into names. We could look up the names on the Elm side. But really, why are we sending that information over when it's already in Leaflet side? But that means that we don't necessarily have the data dependence there. Also, if we don't worry about names, the ID maps directly to a image. We might need the bounds information. And that's not necessarily there right away. Object bounds, object bounds, object bounds. Okay, we do get object bounds from there. So we can make that a precondition. Or at least a resend condition. Oh, or you require... And then it only sends when data receives. The ordering of that is going to depend a little bit on network requests. I don't know if you can... Can you modify those after the fact? Those are considered options. Icon, div icon. I don't even know that bounds have been received. Oh, that's part of objects. Let's see, that's a nice to have. But that only triggers once. Yeah. Remote data dot to maybe model dot objects. And I don't actually care about you. I just want to make sure that you exist. Oh, you're a map 3 now. Oh, you're only a model. That is indeed a model command. Was I using? Yeah, I was actually using add update with these before. All right, so we can. Can we guarantee that Leaflet has these? Right now, it might be hard to tell. Notable objects, notable objects. World list, object bounds. This is you're currently receiving it first. And then we wanted to actually, we want to use IDs. We currently have no use for the detailed information. Little objects probably never be floors. Notable objects. Okay, so we have to deal with it as an object. Not ID. All right, so you're going to get a point.id. Let's update placement layer. So I guess it probably wouldn't hurt to make sure you're toString 2. If we have object data, we probably can do names, assuming I've kept that. I don't know if I've kept that. All right, well, what's the simplest thing we can do to start with? So that's making an icon type using an icon. So L.marker by default uses our default marker. We have to make an icon if we want to do custom stuff. And icon class. Now you see this wants one class per image. Where's my image loading stuff? Load images. Why would use it? Oh, I'm doing this so that I can have a default value for it while it's loading. But this is going to be standard HTML, so Oh, no, this is custom code for the barrier objects, which hopefully I don't do that. Oh, this has a hard-coded sprites. May have to put that in config at some point. Oh, wait a minute. Load images. Object images. Placement dot. And this is apparently getting an ID. Do we do anything besides .id in here? Oh, but you're like a part of a layer, aren't you? Yeah, you're part of sprite layer. Even though object images is something else. But sprite layers are only set up, well, I could technically do this with sprite layer, but it would be mostly empty. And I would try to be scaling things differently. So you're doing layer specific. Oh, you're not doing layer specific stuff. Oh, but you've got a little check loaded loop. Where does it done come from? From load images. Well, actually, if this is a completely functional thing, what are you doing? You are saying all object images are loaded. So we don't actually need that layer there. There's nothing layer specific here. This doesn't seem to be a promise. Oh, it's calling the done function, so you can say load images and then do blah, 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 blah. But as long as we can display that image, that placeholder, probably be fine. It's going to be an image. So really, that's one function. It doesn't depend on layer. Doesn't seem to be any complaints there. Wait. Oh, these are rung bells. Wait, did I get the log or the static? Oh, those are stuck bells. Okay, so a little note to self. probably need to get the stuck bells as well, because that's going to be the last, yeah, this is the last thing in the static image. Well, really what we're going to be looking at is a bell ring occurred there. Yeah, there's the question of it occurred there versus it is the most recent thing there. All right, load images doesn't even need to be a member of this thing. We could load images and then layer.load images and then layer.load images and then. I mean, we could have that be a member, but it doesn't really need to be a member. And there, in fact, is key placement sprite. Okay. Shouldn't have broken anything. Okay, well, we jumped back there. We still see images. We think that if these have... Oh, I still called it object. Leaflet... Or did I? Yes. You were no an ID. No, actual dot. Objects. And end of word, please. Okay, got them all. I keep forgetting to use marks. If I've called load objects, or load images, all right, first of all, are you gonna... Okay, you're not gonna have any errors. Oh. I actually need to have like a separate thing now. That's like icons. I guess it can... What do we do for object images? It's an array. Go to mark. And maybe I should also do like a load icons. Oh, no, you see, you just get a URL. You don't get an actual image. So the browser might be able to cache that, but we can't use it. Well, we still want the icons. It just looks a lot like load images. Well, actually, it's gonna be a lot less than load images. We don't care about the load checking. All right, we're not going to deal with you. That's going to be different. There's not going to be a check loaded. Icons placement.id. So we want to be icon URL. We onload image natural width. Oh, onload, use the natural width of the oh. So that's going to be awkward. I guess if I did like a load images and then create the icons, but this is assuming that by the time we were done with this. All right, I could put this, I could have a callback. I could do that. L.marker now. Icon blah 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 blah. Except we called these data here. Okay, assignment undeclared variable load icons. That's what strict mode is for. Reference error. Placement is not defined. Placement, placement, placement. Placements. T.icon is not defined. Upper or lowercase? You're lowercase. Okay, yeah, we never... What do we get here? Okay, we got one type of thing. It has an ID, an X, and a Y. Oh, wait. No, that's one object. Okay, it's not nested. Why are we not running this? We processed this object. The ID is not equal to 0. We shouldn't have anything in icons yet. Undefined. Oh, placement again. And that's just the print. Okay, but that means we're running the if. Okay, so the error switched on us. Yeah, we have an object. It looks called options icon URL. T.icon is undefined. You were having trouble. Are you not fully loaded yet? I mean, the example. Well, they're doing fragments. Okay, that's not the code. Unless this is all like inline code. Leaflet icon. No, leaf icon. New leaf icon with a different PNG. And markers all in one go. Oh, the data.id. This is supposed to be point.id. Oh. Yeah, so about that size issue. This is where we need the object bounds. The object bounds are basically... Well, the object bounds kind of imply centering, too. But I think I might have been using the image height and width a little bit. Load images. Was I... Yeah, I was doing underscore image width. Right there. If image and image complete. Canvas draw image. Oh, this might have just been pre-calculated scaling factors. Natural width divided by cell D. So actually I should not... Well, I was using natural height and width. That's a barrier object. That's yep, that's an onload again. Canvas height and width. That might correlate to object bounds. And I guess... Oh, no, this is the icon. This is where we have to process it anyway. So... I don't necessarily have access to the raw natural icon stuff. We should have access to object bounds here. You know what? This is the only thing we're using out of here. Identifier. Console.lob. Well, we have something. I think that those are placement relative to like center of tile. They want us to express that as the total size a two-dimensional icon anchor, which the pop-up should be. So icon size is going to be... What do we do with bounds? I was very sloppy with bounds. Okay, 0, 3, so that's probably like top corner, bottom corner? So size... Yeah. Now let's update the layer, update you. Size. Oh, this is going to be the desired size, but that's going to be a factor of the bounds? So... Now, one of these is positive and one of these is typically negative. So that so negative minus a negative should give you the should give you the width. Wait, 2, 1, does that make sense? Oh, because it probably has to do with which corner it is. All right, so that's a bell tower. We expect that to be a very tall object. All right, because inverse coordinate system. From negative 95, 92, relatively centered. From negative 81 to 306. So x is going to be 0 to 2. So you should actually be 3 to... Oh, but which one is going to be negative? The first one's going to be currently negative. So it's going to be 3, 2, 1. Syntax error. Property list. Oh, we started typing this out. $187, $387 seems reasonable. I suspect we're actually going to have to specify a different size, and maybe at some point I actually want to see about doing pre-modified things like this, because like we're always going to be drawing it small. If you don't zoom all the way in, the images we're loading are actually a huge waste. Okay, so that gets us a default, a kind of a default centering. Just having the image size in there. Oh, well. It's only because we're like super zoomed out. Oh, these have actually replaced pointers, so it's actually... Is that where... yeah, that actually is where it is. Just a little bit off. And we need to actually make this scaled by some arbitrary value. Let's see. Cell D might not be a bad start. Not D. Okay, we refocused on there. Okay, maybe it is a bad start. Where's... Oh yeah, it's just invisible. And it's going to stay invisible because it's very small. This is a positive value? Yeah, it's a positive value. All right, so that's too much. That's like way too much. I guess this is a scale. We should really do like this is like 1/32, and then you're doing time scale. That's still pretty tiny. Okay, so now we just have... And where is... Yeah, you're way out there. To be comparable to this, could be a little bit larger. And so we actually sort of have, I guess this to our left and our right are going to be a form of our icon anchor. I might have to do some math here. I'm not quite sure. Because one of these is going to be like inverse coordinates. Yeah, so that seems like particularly the y is off. This could also just be a sign issue. Because that feels like the x is off. No. You would be 2. I need to have my jump set to one of these. All right, so now you see that is a suitable replacement for a standard point. Although this... Do you have a... No, because this is... Oh, yep, and there's the real one. So we do not have a search point for that right now. So that's something else. Yeah, these are nice now. We don't have a fancy schmancy shadow layer. It's pretty much built into the images anyway. And this is actually something I could potentially be doing just for monuments. We'd kind of end up, if we're doing, I might want to be excluding complete bell towers since we should have monuments for those anyway. No. So the thing, it's gonna be close to this. Oh, monument done. So it'd really be 835. That would be the image for a completed monument. Update monument layer. Now you see this is going to be a list of ID 835, assuming that it stays that. And then icons. Okay, and then we would actually not want, I mean, I guess we brighten these up a little bit if they're active. I guess the point markers maybe a little bit better at their job. Of course, these are all necessarily old, so. And that cuts out right about the point that we, not right about the point. We draw to 24. We could probably even start fading this out at that point. All right, now we can actually distinguish different things. And this is actually a nice little chunk of code. Marker images. Now we can be looking at things like, we could do partial bell towers to see where people have been kind of building up for a while. I guess the gold is going to be the hard part. Some monument step, maybe. The final ones are already in the monument log. The bell rings. May be interesting. 834. No bell. Prize. This is the kind of thing that might be kind of nice to do programmatically at some point. 832. $831. I mean, it might just end up being a sequence here. 830. 829. Just kind of walked the parts back. So no bell. I mean, I guess I could be marking down the individual steps here. $28. And then there's a point here at which it's fairly easy to throw up a few here and there, and it's not going to be worth indexing them. Probably like 1 or 2 levels is not going to be significant. 26. I mean, maybe we could throw them all up to get a sense of where that cutoff is. We can probably make a few assumptions here. It's 23, 22. That's probably about the point where it's going to stop making sense. 20. Oh, we go to 18. Oh, and then 19. And then 16. Oop, no. And actually, some of these are the post 10-hour things, or X-hour things, which are never going to appear on the map. It's all the stable ones you could take out. Oh, monument steps are the ones that get recorded as contributed to it. So actually, that's probably the appropriate ones to do. So that's 832. Okay, so that counts as the monument step. 830 does not. That's stable. Okay, so that actually takes this stuff out. 829, 828, 827 is just a timer. Oh, no, this is how to get. 826, 825, 824 is just the timer. 823 we ended up skipping. 822, 822. And then 828. Did we skip 21? No. Maybe I'll show up later, but 820 is a stable. Then 18 is a monument step, and 19 is a monument step. And 16 is not. And 15 is not. Yeah, so these are all things that don't count. Okay, there's actually not that many of them. So those might all be locations of note. See, I'm surprised that there's no partials anywhere back here, which makes me Oh, yeah, because this is forgotten. We're that far out. Okay, that might be useful. So some of the wells I'm not sure about. Let's see, so FAMUs. Exhausted well might be worthy of note, but it's not a FAMUs. Oh, cistern is also an establisher. I don't even need that one. Six, 663 deep well. Oh, and there's full deep well. Interesting that those are such different IDs. Must have been some changes in mechanics. Hi. Shallow wells might be a little bit too easy to do. This is a full shallow well. Deep well. Also, this is water regeneration. I don't really expect those to be placed. Actually, in terms of placements, we should actually have the search data here. Okay, so the cisterns show up, the full cisterns show up. You know what? I want to clear this stuff for now. There are some shallow wells. There's a few running water pumps. Ready well sites? I'm not sure about. Nobody stayed on deep well. I don't know if that's not recorded. Maybe that would show up. Oh, yeah, actually, we're right down into the zeros. So there are no on map. Now, things that have appeared at some time. And this is going to be dependent a little bit on the stage of the families. We've got shallow well. Running what? 2389. Running water pump. Full cistern. Firing Newcomen pump indicates some use. I mean, just having a Newcomen pump there is probably fine. Maybe nobody built a Newcomen pump. Built a new one, 2224. Deep well, we've got ready well site. I mean, I guess there's not too many of them. $3963. Now, some of the other stuff. $3963. Probably do need to look at, but this is what we're going to have data for. I'm going to have to do a deeper analysis in terms of, well, not necessarily in this view. Okay, so shallow well, shallow well, shallow well, diesel well. All the old. I must not have the type of well that were at these places. Okay, well, that's just a crossroads. That's just a crossroads. Are you an exhausted well? Yeah, so we're probably, I mean, it's a dead town, but it's still interesting. Exhausted deep well. Well, it's exhausted, probably exhausted deep well. No, maybe it's exhausted deep well. Exhausted oil pump. Oh, that's a pump jack. Oh, yep, this is pump valve from disassembling a Newcomen. Oh yes, all the old towns. And this, we still have data here, right? So what type of well do you have? This is something else. Oh, does it have the, no, I don't think it has the pump valve on it. Okay, it's some kind of well. Wait, exhausted deep well, 3031. Oh, did I not recompiled yet? Okay, bunch of those things not found. I clearly have this data point. Is there like something with uses or something? $3031. That's the data source we're using. It's got locations. Is this a message ordering issue? Are we not actually firing off the icon creation at a good time? Are we not creating the icon for some reason? Okay, notable error. Okay, when complete, we have 3031. That sure looks like the same kind of well. Where were we seeing it was in one of these dead towns? Is there, oh, are we running into a limit on how many markers we can display? Because there is going to be the signal to noise ratio here. Is this a potentially like an untouched area? And we only put the current data in the index? Or am I doing changed data instead of static data? No, the data type I'm getting out is key. Yeah, I could be parsing it wrong. Everything else has been matching up. PO, key. '81. Wait. Oh, right. When I do a search, it also uses the map data. Well, I need to be zoomed out farther to tell if I've got it. Okay. So that actually looks like a failure of indexing. Hmm. Maybe we're only indexing things in tiles we touched, but the old stuff is still in our tile index. Okay, so that's interesting. I really don't want to load up all the old tiles to scan them. And that means it wasn't touched in this span, but it's also not a true currently on the map index. On the other hand, that means that these things were actually touched in that time period. Or at least their tiles were touched. And one of my main motivations for this is finding something of interest to start the map at. So a tile that hasn't been touched is going to be an interesting spot. So for the index, that's fine. So that means some of these could be... Okay, the ghost is disappearing. Yeah, so you exist, but your area has not been loaded recently. I don't want to just maintain... It's like I could load up the old index files and only add entries to them. But at some point, we will kind of start forgetting things. This means we'd have to know what's in the area that got forgotten. Well, I guess if somebody wants to know about older stuff, they can just go back in time. I accidentally tagged a grave. Look like an ant? $10.68. Oh, yep. Full shallow well was supposed to be. $10.98. I don't expect to see many of those. Maybe... Yeah, full shallow well. If we actually did this with the activity maps, it would map up pretty good. All right, some of these could be automatic states. Actually, this might be easier. So cisterns, people can build lots and lots of cisterns. I'm mostly interested in wells because their placement is restricted. All right, we've got 663. We've got 1067, full shallow well, got 1098. Was empty. Probably should make this header sticky. Yeah, I don't think that, well, it definitely doesn't appear in my data. I don't think that that's gonna be a timed transition, so it's not gonna matter. Firing Newcomen pump we got. Shallow well that was empty. Firing kerosene Newcomen pump 2344. So running water pump must be the diesel one. Yeah, because that's actually technically more advanced than that. Not a whole lot of Carol pumps, huh? So that's not a those are not the Newcomen pumps are not FAMUs objects. And there were none in this version of the map. So dry Newcomen pump is a possibility. I mean, technically these are possibilities. Firing we got. Torn seal is going to be the most common one, but that's a timed transition? What? No? No, because you get that from taking the water out. So these are all things that do exist in the map. Yeah, the kerosene. I might have to do some sort of like Newcomen pump search. If we're doing this for real. Two two zero. Wait, 220? Of course, we basically just saw that none of these existed in the static image. They're just not going to show up there. Yeah, so this is not useful for the prototype right now. Oil well. Exhausted oil well. What oil well would be interesting? There might be some of those in the times data, but we're not. The prototype does not have that data. Exhausted oil well is 3091. Well, maybe we do want that in a little bit of a group. What is the other oil stuff? Exhausted oil well. Gushing oil rig is going to be a timed thing. Oh, yeah, those exhausted oil wells. Exhausted oil pump. Fueled oil pump. 4530. I mean, these tend to get done and then exhausted, so. Oil drilling. So there's not, using the current version of the static data, there's not going to be a whole lot of those. And then they would tend to get replaced with other things anyway. So we would expect that to be somewhere in the ginger band. We've got one. You're actually, yeah, the tower was large. I guess the pumps show up okay. That actually is kind of tiny. Also kind of dark. Well, that helps a little bit with some of that stuff. What are you? Oh, you're an exhausted oil pump. Oh, yeah. Now you can kind of see it. That would almost be better off as a point. Yeah, if you get down to the grid layer, but at that point you can kind of see it anyway. So there's also the question of, ooh, no, yeah, that's supposed to be contrast. Maybe they could be a little bit less dark. And we've got, I don't know if iron's appropriate. That might be too much. 945. Because they're not really useful for much anymore. It's more a record of how much a place got. Stripped iron vein. 3944. Iron mine, 944. Shallow iron pit, 3957. Shallow iron pit. Deep iron pit, 943. Oop, you were stripped muddy iron vein, 3953. Nips. Yeah, maybe some of these could exist. We'll have to do a more detailed list later. We're only using static right now. Yeah, they're dark. Yeah, the points might be better for some of this stuff. You can see the wells and the iron they got. At least for the current area. Actually, the collapsed mines are things that are going to fall off the record real quick because they're going to stop getting used. Yeah, they're completely lost in there. So I'm not really sure that iron is going to be a useful thing to have on the big index. And if I did, then it might be better as points. The exhausted oil wells, you don't really need to find them. Once again, they're a record of where things were, and they're tend to be too small to see. I wonder if object search should have an option to show these as items. Well, this method's going to be much less performant. Admittedly, we're not doing shadows. We think that one is not super interesting. What else would be of default interest? I mean, we could show the last known position of trucks. we've got 4654. It's like, I know they're there. I guess I hadn't recompiled yet. Or I typoed the ID. 4654. Whatever that was wasn't very common. Yeah, that might be a useful display option, but it could be an expensive one. Of course, I guess well, yeah. Actually, one of the problems with my point layer right now is you get the cutoff, so you've got to overdraw things from the different tiles. So what are the other things of note? Sprinkler system. We want to get some of the other stages. Pavers are unusual, but maybe it's better if they. Well, I guess a lost paver is a shame, but better if they don't get disturbed too easily. What would make you say, "Hey, this is a really interesting spot on the map right now"? Or at least a active spot. Plane flights. Like is not to be somebody who crash landed in the middle of nowhere. All the bottles, all the colors. Mapstones sometimes get put out in volume. The places they're pointing to might be more interesting. Landing strips can get made. I don't know if they get used. They're relatively easy to make. Radios might be signs of advanced civilization, but I mean they should have wells and things too. So wells and bell towers. Live nose ja. Yule tree is pretty unusual. I also need to come up with better ways of identifying some of these things, like the monuments. Probably we do, well, we can try to do monument call. Not all of those are going to be player. We can do monument step. We can do FAMUs, but we're going to need a few other things beyond that. We've got like active oil. I'm not that might have to be an explicit list. Not necessarily a tag for that. Maybe all this two stuff at once. There's cabbage. Yeah, there's beans and corn. Signs. Now we're getting down to real basics. There's the bell tower. You don't have, yeah, you don't have any special properties anymore. Oh, gosh. You can do it for kicks. All right, so preparing the actual data set for this is a data processing thing, as well as figuring out how we want to get the right set of data for it. Could maybe do objects as a display option at your own performance peril. Where exactly would we do that? Maybe there'd be room up here. And of course, I'm just doing this in a teeny tiny window. I would normally be looking at it like this, which that's probably still, it's about the same size as the pointers they were using, so. All right, so have we done anything besides mess with this list? Did a console log data. No, that's just the list. Still, I might want to switch this off in the I guess I could stash it. There's always that. Let's see. We said trucks, I mean, are cool, but probably not significant signs of civilization. If we take this as the list, this doesn't have time information associated with it. And this object format normally does object ID encodings for putting multiple things in one file. Ooh, was the original? If the original format was doing tile relative indexing, we just set up a no offset and it should be fine. They already dealt with the other object indexes anyway. Huh. So we had, well, no, there was one here. We had no partial monuments in like our current well zone. We only have people building monuments in places by wells that had not been touched. This is a bell that had not been rung. You know, it was an active town. Huh. Right, because we weren't highlighting the stuff built. That was still a monument. Right. What's your well? Oh, I'm not doing the with pump valve. Unpowered pump pad? Yeah, we've got a couple of variants from that. So the diesel removed and from exhausted. From shallow. I mean, I guess these are things that could exist. For prototype purposes, we can definitely see these. 3041. $30.41. $39.64. $30.42. And you're from shallow. Nope, 87. So it's 23. So that was apparently actually the earliest version of that. 2387. 41, 64, 42. Only some of those show up. That seems a bit more reasonable. Oh, we've got some things out here too. What do you got going on? Oh, this is probably the stages of the diesel well. What do you call that? Maybe it's a kind of wet well? Wet pump head? Oh, there's lots of wet things. Oh, yeah, wet diesel water pump. So that's a FAMU. This is not a FAMU. It's 2390. Yeah, FAMU's plus is going to be the messy part. Dry diesel water pump is a thing a person could create. 2388. All right, that's matching up with the activity areas better. They probably have something here. Or they're just going off ponds. Oh. That's not even a ready well site, so probably was and it collapsed. So if we want to pick an area in the current map, monuments are actually not that great. I mean, this might in fact be the most recently completed bell tower at this time. December 18th. December 17th. Yeah, okay, so that one actually, we actually weren't too bad here. But maybe, like most recently run diesel well, I don't know if the format is normally sorting the object IDs. I might have to tweak that to allow us to express a preference. You know, go by like highest tech wells to lowest tech wells, monuments. No, monument calls. Although this isn't a monument call, but it's still of note. Oh, I have, yeah. All right. Notes. All right, so we kind of have this. We need pop-up text for notable objects. You see, I'm looking at using the non-date format, even though this would kind of be a semi-date thing. We need to preprocessed object list. And that actually is server work. And we have to do the loading for it. Picking all the objects is going to be kind of the annoying part, and then that's something that might have to get updated every now and then. Yeah, monument calls are tricky because they are like server notices, but they're mostly end up happening on those old bells behind us. And object indexes do not include data from tiles that were not loaded during processing. Oh, that was the other thing I was thinking of. Option, which this does not depend on data processing, so this could wait. I don't even have to give these. I don't have to give these pop-up text. Yeah, it's showing them as interactable, even though they're not, unfortunately. Anyway, it's lunchtime. Thanks for support from all the subscribers. Thanks to everybody who hosted me. This is a project that's been going on too long. Maybe I should think about working on it some other times. Let's see. I have to decide if I want to do some cooking today. I've got some time open for it, but I've also kind of got a lot of food sitting around right now, so I might need to wait a little bit. But likely there'll be something tonight. I might want to work more on this. I might want to do some Oni. I will see. Bye-bye.